Good day, Junior Tuckies, and to anybody who might be tuning in, welcome to this English home language lesson for grade 8. Today we are going to be doing some dictionary work, and the theory is compiled by myself. My name is Miss Langtree, and I'm excited to get this show on the road. The first thing we are going to look at today is what the CAPS document expects us to achieve. So when it comes to the final exams, this is a document that's issued out by the Department of Education. Well, what it says is you need to be able to use dictionaries, thesauruses, and other reference books. Now, the reason why they make you do this is because they want to give you a word from a reference book and say, okay, now determine the meaning from this reference we've given you. Give us the spelling of this word from the picture, pronunciation, syllabication, which just means that they want you to spell it out in terms of syllables according to this reference that they're giving you. They might ask you to give a part of speech, and yeah. And the whole thing is that this is meant to be an unfamiliar word to you, but you can still use the reference guide, which is either a dictionary, which we're going to tackle now, or a thesaurus, which basically tells you synonyms and antonyms of a word. Anyway, yes, whether or not you can use these books to answer the questions. Right, now let's get down to the crux of the matter. All words in the English language are captured in dictionaries. Okay, so a dictionary is a reference guide to all the different words in English. And fun fact, there are people in the world whose full-time job is to make sure that dictionaries are always updated. Okay, so that's how they try and keep up with all the words in the English language. Crazy, right? So, whether it's online or in a book, dictionaries are a necessary and fantastic tool for searching the correct spelling or meaning of a word which you are going to be using to make sure that the meaning that you're trying to convey, it will be communicated effectively. So, let's have a look over here. Remember that every author needs to be understood by the audience on a deep level. And guys, you are the author. Every time you write an essay or even a text message, you are the author of that note. Okay, so therefore, the correct word choice and spelling is essential. Okay, otherwise your message will be lost in translation, and particularly when it gets to formal settings where you're maybe working for money, which, will sneak up on you. You may be young now, but then you want to convey, you want to come across as somebody who knows how to spell and how to write effectively, because people will be like, my goodness, this person is so professional. So dictionaries are fantastic tools, guys. Okay, here we go. Therefore, using dictionaries improves meaningful writing and expression, and this is what we will focus on today, how to use this magical device. Right, before we dive in, and you are welcome to skip this part if it's not of interest to you, I just wanted to talk about the origin of English, which is quite a common thing that I saw in the textbooks about this topic. So let's have a look, shall we? So, the first people who lived in England, or the UK, United Kingdom, England, Scotland, and Ireland, are called the Celtics, and they lived in England before Christ, BC. This means that from year 0 on our current calendar, and in the earlier years. So this was the earliest population in the UK. And then what happened was the Roman Empire took over in 45 AD. Oh, hang on, guys. I need to switch. Just get a pen quickly. Okay, so yes, the Roman Empire in 45 AD, which means after Christ. Okay, 45 AD is when the Roman Empire took over the UK. And the Romans spoke Latin. But an interesting fact about the Romans is that they took over Greece. They were from Italy, but they spread out far and wide. And they just fell in love with Greek language and Greek culture to the point where they implemented a lot of Greek into their vocabulary. And when they were in the UK, the United Kingdom, this strongly influenced the way in which English words were formed. Anyway, so the Romans spoke Latin, the language of ancient Rome. However, the stabbing of Julius Caesar, this is an ancient statue of what he looked like, the emperor. And Mark Antony, another very important man in the Roman Empire, fell in love with Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt. And anyway, all of this led to the very dramatic fall of this amazing empire. Okay, and then we've got the people called the Saxons, the Jewels, and the Angler tribes. So if some Anglo-Saxon is another word for an English-speaking person. Anyway, so these three German tribes all banded together, and they actually ended up taking control over England, and they spoke what is considered Old English. This is a very old painting, okay, which depicts what they were like. Anyway, then I can't even tell you the rabbit hole I went on through this timeline, but somewhere along the way, okay, from Norway, the Vikings, yes, the Vikings actually invaded the UK, and so a lot of people, Vikings have influenced the English language as well, and a lot of Norwegian people stayed in England, and so that's just an interesting fact about history. And there was also, so the Normans, they were hugely influential. William the Conqueror actually led them into England from France, and yes, they are the reason for the French influence on the English language. Okay. Normandy is a place in France. Anyway, so now we get to the Shakespearean era, which is 1564. No, I don't actually. 1500, the year 1564. Okay, sorry, had a moment. And they've just got this melting pot of all of these different languages. We've got Latin, we've got Greek, we've got German, I suppose. Well, no, they call it Old English, and there's also Middle English. And then we've got some Norwegian, sure, throw it in there, and some French. So it was just crazy. And people were like, what do we talk? And so it's boiled down to popular culture, and the vocabulary of people was, I'm just looking here, guys, increasing. And there was a fight between the French and the English. However, William Shakespeare and other playwrights, they wrote in English. And because of that, the general population spoke in English too. And that's how English came to be. So we could have all been speaking French right now, which would have been, well, I'd be unemployed, but but I mean, there are benefits to speaking French. You know, it's a beautiful language. Anyway, so new words arise every day. I'm looking at the current day now. In our society, and the older you become, the less easy it is to cotton on, which means to kind of figure out what the new lingo, what the new vocabulary is. And that's why I'm so grateful for young people like you, because you always manage to tell old people like me what the new trending words are. So, the English language did not just pop up out of thin air. It actually took thousands of years to form, and it still evolves all the time. And that's why dictionaries are so important for our society in general. Can you think of any words that have recently been invented? Some words that I have learned from my classes include vibing, didn't know what that was, load shedding, which we actually invented as South Africans, go us, and then tea, which I thought was a delicious beverage, but no, it's apparently gossip. So spilling the tea is kind of like spilling the beans. That's what people used to say. So it means to divulge all of the secrets, I suppose. So can you think of any other words? I'd love to hear them. So the two types of dictionary extract that the government might test you on include the traditional dictionary, which looks a bit like this one on the side here, And then there's also the digital dictionary, which we are going to look at in a minute. So let's dive into the traditional dictionary. For my reference, I actually used my father's old dictionary. He grew up in a town called Essex in England, and he had to carry it around every day. And so he had to write, well, he wrote his name in it later on, London 1985. Which means that this bad boy is 40 years old. Okay guys, so when we are getting tested for our dictionary skills, they will give us an extract like so. Okay, and you need to just understand that words are organized in alphabetical order in the dictionary, and that there are certain key words that we need to look for. Okay, and that's where we will get tested when your dictionary skills are being put to the test. Okay, so certain words that we need to look out for include the head word. Okay, and this is the word which is being looked up in the dictionary. Okay, so over here, if we follow the arrow, comes to the word answer, and that is absolutely correct. Okay, answer is the head word of all of this information. Okay, similarly, let me just change color. Answerable is the head word, ant is the head word, and acid, and so on and so forth. All right, so that is the word which basically is in question. Now, it will then maybe ask you to identify the part of speech in the extract. When it comes to the test, they're only going to give you one extract, so you won't have to wonder which word they are testing you on, don't worry. But essentially, the part of speech often comes straight after the head word, and so it's these sort of words here which indicate the part of speech. Do you see where I am? Oh, here we go. Here is an N and an A. Now, we've just gone through our parts of speech videos, so you can tell me what N might represent in a part of speech. A noun. Yes, I know that's what you were going to say. And an A, perhaps an adjective, right? A V for verb. Okay, so you'd see sort of a letter in italics, and then you can try and gather which part of speech it is referencing. Another one that they like to give is pron, which means pronoun. Okay, so you can decipher what part of speech is in question, okay, by looking at the letters after the head word. Okay, then they'll say, what is the definition of this word? Okay, what is the dictionary definition of this word? Because that's what dictionaries do. So if we can't tell the definition of a word when looking at a dictionary, we have failed. So we need to understand that the definition is often a sentence, okay, which kind of elaborates like so. For the word answer, it says to make an answer, to act in response to, be satisfactory, correspond to description, okay? A thing said, written, or done to deal with a question. These are all the definition of the word answer. Do you agree? Okay? Accusation, etc. A solution to a problem. So if they're asking for the definition, you'd have to give something, well, you'd have to give one of these sorts of sentences. You'd have to give it word for word. If I were you, simply because I like to cover my bases and I write quite quickly, I'd try and write as much as I can of the dictionary definition to make sure that it's there. But then you must just avoid, like, you can't then say answer and then just write every single thing that comes afterwards, because that's not showing that you know the definition. Okay, so you still need to just give the definition, which is the explanation of the head word. Okay, but yes, just be safe when you get to that question. Okay, then it would ask you something about phonetic language. Okay, that is the sort of the phonetic language is how do you pronounce this word. Okay, and these sort of symbols, They're for people who do their masters in English and things like that. I don't personally know like what these sorts of symbols mean, because obviously the reason why they use these symbols is because the letter A can actually be pronounced in a lot of ways. You can say ah, eh. So phonetic means the way in which you say it, and that's where a lot of people who don't speak English home language will battle, because they'll read a word and they won't know how to pronounce it, and that's where these sort of symbols come in handy. Okay, so if they ask about the phonetic language, they're asking for this sort of thing. Where, when you start to see alien calligraphy on the page, you've got your boy. Okay, so the phonetic language is over here and over here and over here. So you just have to copy it down exactly as you see it. Okay. Right, so let's move on to the online dictionary. Now, humanity has come a long way, especially since we can now Google pretty much everything, pretty much every word, if we're exposed to Wi-Fi or to data. So it's just not practical to only test on the traditional dictionary, because we don't, nobody carries around a dictionary anymore. Okay, so they actually might test the online dictionary instead. So if you see this, don't be alarmed, okay? It's pretty much the same thing. Basically, you go onto Google and you type a word followed by definition onto the internet, and you'll see a screen that's similar to this. So here I Googled the word bamboozle. So this is my head word. Okay. So dictionary entries, it is the entire article. This whole thing here is a dictionary entry. Okay, pronunciation. This breaks up the word into syllables to help us to pronounce it correctly. So we can see bam, boo, zill. And we can actually also see the part of speech there, interestingly enough. Okay, so every time it sort of splits the word into sections like that. Can you see how it's split? Because remember how syllables work. Basically, one clap represents one beat in a word. So the word syllable, I'm clapping 3 times, there's 3 syllables. Okay, so that, if they're asking for the syllables or they're asking for the pronunciation, basically you're looking for this and you need to just write it down exactly as you see it. Okay, remember, yeah, pronunciation is the same as that phonetic language that we discussed earlier. Okay, and another thing that the online dictionary does, which is fantastic, is they give you synonyms. Synonyms are the opposite of antonyms, okay? And synonyms are words that have a similar meaning. So another word for the word bamboozle could be trick. I tricked you, I deceived you, I deluded you, okay? Hoodwink, great old school word. Basically, it all just means I tricked you. So if you're a writer, that's really helpful. Don't you wish that there was a book dedicated to just synonyms? There is one. Let me show you guys. A book that is dedicated to synonyms is called A Thesaurus. A thesaurus is not a dinosaur. Okay, it does sound like a dinosaur, doesn't it? A triceratops or a Tyrannosaurus Rex. No, a thesaurus, okay, is actually a website or a novel dedicated to just showing you synonyms, and that's great for the writer. So what they might do is they might give you an extract from a thesaurus, not like the one on the screen, but it looks almost identical to a dictionary, and then they'll ask you to list the synonyms. So here we go, word of the day. Oops. Word of the day is decrease, and some synonyms: I deter, I diminish. If a value is diminished, it does decrease. Okay, and I deploy. So that's what a thesaurus does. Right, so let's continue labeling our dictionary definition, shall we? The next thing, and I want you to draw this in your books, please, is something called an auditory clip. Okay, it looks like this. Okay, it's this little speaker with some volume coming out of it, as you can see. And this audio clip is very useful because this is what is used to make the sound of the word, and it assists you with the pronunciation of the word. It is quite a common question for the examiner to say, what is this? Define it, name it, and define it. Name it and explain what it does. So these little definitions are extremely important. Okay. Then the part of speech in a dictionary that's online, they will say the whole word, okay? But maybe what the examiner will do, just to test your knowledge, is sort of make it just a symbol like that. Okay. Then the dictionary definition of the word, okay, either one of these would do. Let me get my highlighter rather. The phase of the moon in which its whole disk is illuminated, or the time when a full moon occurs. Okay, so those are the dictionary definitions. Oh, sorry guys, just to clarify a bit in case we've never seen an auditory clip before. Basically what will happen is I will click it, okay, I'll tap on it and we'll go full moon, full moon, full moon. Okay, so that you can understand it. Okay, then the last thing, I'm looking over here now, an example of the defined word in a sentence. Okay, yeah, if they say give us an example of this word in a sentence and they provide one, and well, it depends what they ask. If they say demonstrate the word in a sentence, or from this extract say what is the example of this in a sentence, then just write down exactly what you see in the extract provided to you, the definition provided to you. Or if they say provide this word in a sentence, you can then use your own sentence. So for example, full moon, you could say something like, the werewolves are coming out of the shadows on the full moon, or something like that. Or perhaps something like, the full moon really lights up the sky. Yeah, so you can have a bit of fun with that. Okay, and then let us continue with these labels. We're firstly going to look at idiomatic usage, okay? Don't be startled by these words, they are okay. An idiom, what's an idiom, guys? Okay, an idiom is something where they take a word and they change it around. It doesn't often mean the literal meaning. It's kind of just a common phrase that just exists and we don't really know why, but it's quite fun to use them. Anyway, so an idiom is more informal and it differs from original meaning and becomes more abstract. We're going to dive more into idioms in a second. That's the next slide. Okay, but just know that in a dictionary definition, it will often be after the literal definitions and the literal, kind of uses of these words and sentences at the bottom. They will throw in when this word is used as an idiom. So as you can see over here with child's play, it's child's play is something that we often say, which basically means, well, this isn't a very serious thing. A child could do it when they're playing. So that's sort of the idiom usage of the word child. Okay, so they will throw an idiom or something that's less formal, that's colloquially used at the bottom of a dictionary definition, and that is what it looks like. Okay, then derivative. Okay, so a word derived from another word or from a root. Okay, usually formed by adding a prefix or suffix. We're going to get into prefixes and suffixes in the next video. Okay, so for example, the word quickly is derived from the word quick. Okay, and so quick is the root word, and then we can sort of add different parts to this word to make new words, but it's still derived from that root. So for example, my name is Amy. Teachers aren't meant to tell you their first names, are they? But cat's out the bag, okay? And say someone, thinks is getting too familiar and they say, "Hey, Ames." Okay, I know that they're talking to me, because this is basically my word, my name, but the word Ames is derived from my name, the root name Amy. Okay, so that's kind of what a derivative is. I hope that that makes sense. Let's move on to our etymology, which is on this side over here, guys. Etymology is the origin of the word. Now, these words over here, I would very much appreciate it if you'd all write them down. It is, I'd say, the most common question that comes up during dictionary skills. Okay, they will say, what is the etymology of this word? Or they will say, ME is the etymology. Explain etymology. Okay, so you need to study this very well. Okay, etymology is the origin. Now that's why I gave you that whole strange timeline with Vikings and Romans and all sorts, was to show you that different words in the English language didn't always exist. They are all sourced from earlier on in history and adapted, and they've evolved. Okay, they're all derived from certain languages which were present in the UK. So for example, in our example, let's follow the arrow to down here. It says that the word child, okay, is actually Germanic, which means from Germany. Okay, OE and ME. They will never say Old English. They will always say OE. And I think that's why this is such a popular question, because that means that you have to know that OE stands for Old English. If they give you an L, you need to know, okay, oh, this is actually Latin. Right, and we've also got French, we've got Middle English. Middle English is a very popular one. Greek. It's also very popular. Take note, guys, Greek is GR, and GER can also be found in certain dictionaries. GER stands for German, and GR stands for Greek. Okay, so please, I am begging you, write down these words and study them, so that you won't get bamboozled in dictionary skills, and so that this can actually be quite an easy section in the exam where you can get some marks. Before we continue, I just have to tell you a really strange and random fact that I learned from my father when I was borrowing his old dictionary, actually. And that is that my surname, Langtry, is derived from de Langetre, which was the surname of a group of French Norman people who went to the UK in 1066. That's the year. And yeah, they were following William the Conqueror. So probably go and ask your family, if you can, when you get home, where your surname is derived from, and see what they say, because it can be fascinating to know the origin of your special word, which is your surname. So I just wanted to explain idiomatic usage to you a bit more, because it is a topic that lots of people get confused by. An idiom is just something that's so random, that people just say. It's become common, but no one really knows where it came from. And I'll give you a lot of examples so that you can see what I mean. So it's informal, okay, and it has a meaning that differs from the meaning of the words in the expression. Oops. That wasn't straight. Okay. For example, look at the phrase, hold your tongue. So you're busy talking really loudly and you're about to say something that's controversial that you maybe shouldn't say, and someone turns to you and says, hold your tongue. What are they saying? Are they saying that you should stick your fingers in your mouth and grab a hold of your tongue? No. It means that you should shush. Okay, that you should keep quiet. It's a metaphor, so to speak. Okay, so that's sort of what I mean by an idiom. Let's look at some other examples here. If idioms were real, hold your horses. That means slow down. Okay, back in the days, you used to have to pull the reins to slow your horses down. But if it was literal, hold your horses, okay, that's what it would look like. It's impossible. It doesn't make any sense, but it exists. Another one is raining cats and dogs. What a wonderful day that would be. Gosh, I'd adopt so many animals. But yes, in the literal sense, it doesn't make any sense. They just exist in English. We're not 100% why, but we're going to roll with it. And that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. It has been a pleasure, and I will see you in our next video.